Sam Abdulrahim, known as the Punisher, has become a notorious figure in Melbourne's intense and brutal criminal scene, a world where loyalty is scarce and violence rules. At just 32, he's earned the grim label of Melbourne's most hunted man, navigating a life steeped in crime, danger, and close calls. His journey has been a wild mix of violence, jail time, and endless legal trouble. Starting out in a motorcycle gang before stepping into the boxing ring, Sam's life has been a non-stop battle for survival. With $1 million bounty on his head set by his enemies, every day is a high-stakes struggle, making his life one big game of survival. This video dives into the rise and risky existence of Sam, the Punisher, a man constantly fighting both fate and foes. Growing up in Melbourne's northern suburbs, a hotspot influenced by Middle Eastern crime families and bikie gangs, Sam was surrounded by the rough side of life from a young age. His community was a magnet for gang connections, and it wasn't long before Sam was deeply involved. But unlike many others, Sam wasn't just hanging around the edges. He wanted power. With his quick temper, love for fast cars, and appetite for a thrill, Sam quickly stood out from the crowd. His path into crime began with small-time thefts and drug deals, but by his 20s, he was already mingling with some of Melbourne's toughest bikie gangs and crime networks. Sam's entry into Melbourne's crime world wasn't quiet. It was marked by a series of intense and violent confrontations. The most famous was a bloody brawl outside the Melbourne Magistrates Court in 2015. In this high-profile clash with rival kickboxer Omar Bahati, the fight erupted as a brutal example of the escalating feuds between Middle Eastern gangs in Melbourne. Police had to step in, and the media didn't miss the chance to capture a shirtless Sam being led away in handcuffs. This incident firmly put Sam in the spotlight, drawing both the gaze of the law and respect from his peers in the criminal world. And this courthouse clash was far from a one-off. It was just another chapter in Sam's long list of violent episodes. During this time in Sam's life, he earned a reputation for his fiery temper and eagerness to get into fights, traits that won him respect in the underworld, but also made him a target. Sam's early criminal record was filled with street brawls and minor crimes, but a serious car crash in 2015 completely shifted the way the public viewed him, catapulting him into a new level of infamy. In the early hours of October 25, 2015, Sam was speeding through the Melbourne suburb of Reservoir in his Ferrari 360 Spider. He lost control, slamming head-on into another car, killing 88-year-old great-grandmother Muriel Hewitt and injuring 10 others. The crash was shocking, not just for the tragedy itself, but for the disturbing questions it raised about Sam's reckless nature and lack of regard for human life. Witnesses claimed his reaction was cold and showed no real remorse for the lives affected, including Hewitt's death. The media seized on the story, and soon Sam was widely seen as a villain in the public eye. Sam faced serious charges, including culpable driving causing death. However, instead of using this tragedy as a wake-up call, he continued his downward spiral. Even while out on bail, Sam racked up more driving offenses, stayed involved in drug activities, and was eventually arrested for possessing a substantial amount of crystal meth, 138 grams. Rather than slowing him down, the crash seemed to push him deeper into Melbourne's criminal world. As Sam climbed the ranks of the criminal underworld, he didn't do so without betrayal and rivalries. Initially, he aligned himself with several biker gangs, including the Bandidos and later the Mongols. These alliances gave him a sense of protection and access to a wide network of resources, helping him further cement his position in Melbourne's crime scene. Sam's alliances in the underworld didn't come without consequences. While his connections with powerful figures, especially with Middle Eastern crime networks, helped him gain influence, they also plunged him into fierce rivalries. One of the most critical alliances in Sam's early years was his bond with Nabil Magni, a feared figure known for involvement in everything from drug trafficking to extortion. At first, Magni provided Sam with protection and guidance, helping him navigate the dangerous waters of organized crime. But as in many underworld partnerships, tensions eventually erupted. Things came to a head in 2016 after a heated argument at Melbourne's Crown Casino, where Magni felt Sam had failed to support him. This incident caused a serious rift between them, and it would lead to further fallout, especially after the murder of Kadir KD, or a close associate of the powerful Hamad family. Orr was killed in a targeted execution in a Campbellfield car park. Rival crime figure George Morogi was later convicted for the murder, but speculation about Sam's involvement lingered. While Sam denied any role, court records indicated he'd been present at a meeting just before the killing, and some suspected he had lured Orr to the location. Although Sam testified in Morogi's trial, insisting he wasn't involved, his claims were met with doubt, and the court did not entirely rule out his involvement. Orr's murder marked a major turning point for Sam, sparking a dangerous feud between him and the Hamad family. Powerful figures within the Hamad family, especially Kaz Hamad and Ahmed al-Hamza, believed Sam had betrayed Orr and vowed to get revenge. This feud ignited a cycle of violence that would haunt Sam for years, as the Hamads launched a relentless campaign of retaliation. After his release on parole in 2019 for his role in the deadly Ferrari crash, Sam found himself at the center of a wave of attacks orchestrated by the Hamad family and other enemies. Days after his release, his family home became the target of a drive-by shooting, the first of many violent attacks in a long, ongoing battle for survival. Sam's family, associates, and businesses faced relentless attacks as his enemies intensified their campaign against him. Shootings, firebombings, and other violent acts constantly targeted anyone and anything connected to him. The message was clear. Sam's main rivals, particularly Kazim Hamad and Ahmed al-Hamza, were determined to eliminate him. The increasing violence forced Sam into a life of paranoia. He moved from one hotel to another, desperately trying to stay one step ahead of those out to get him. But despite his efforts to keep a low profile, the attacks persisted. His panel-beating business was shot up multiple times, and his family's properties were repeatedly firebombed, showing just how far his enemies were willing to go to see him gone. In a bid for safety, Sam returned to prison after his parole was revoked, hoping that even jail might offer some form of refuge. Yet, even behind bars, he wasn't out of reach. As soon as he entered Loddon Prison, he was ambushed by fellow inmates, who attacked him with a rock and left him with serious injuries. This prison yard assault showed just how deeply his enemies wanted him gone, as it was widely believed to have been organized by his rivals on the outside. By 2020, Sam's life had spiraled into an endless cycle of violence and retaliation, with no clear escape in sight. He was a marked man, pursued not only by criminal rivals, but also closely watched by law enforcement. Every move he made was scrutinized, and his freedom seemed more precarious with each passing day. Amid all this chaos, Sam found a small glimmer of hope in boxing. Turning to the sport gave him a sense of focus and a shot at redemption, providing a path that, for the first time, didn't involve crime or violence. With his natural athletic ability and fighting instincts, he began to train intensively, hoping that through boxing, he might transform himself into a legitimate competitor and possibly find a new direction away from his violent past. In 2019, Sam decided to pursue a professional boxing career, hoping it might be his ticket out of a life dominated by crime. With determination and natural talent, he quickly gained a reputation in the boxing community, earning respect for his skill and winning titles. He even became the Victorian State Cruiserweight Champion, a major accomplishment that hinted at a fresh start, free from his violent past. For a moment, it looked like boxing might actually be his way out. But his success in the ring couldn't shield him from the dangers of his past. Sam's social media posts, where he often flaunted his victories and wealth, stirred up old rivalries and drew renewed attention from his enemies. His high-profile return to the spotlight also caught the eye of law enforcement, who began monitoring him even more closely, scrutinizing both his activities in the ring and his life outside it. In addition to boxing, Sam became involved in a heated legal battle with the Victorian government after his parole was revoked in 2019. He filed a lawsuit against the state, arguing his imprisonment had been unlawful, and the case generated a lot of media interest. Sam tried to portray himself as a victim of government overreach, attempting to shift public perception in his favor. Despite these attempts to turn his life around, Sam couldn't fully escape his past. In early 2021, he was expelled from the Mongols Motorcycle Club, a serious setback that left him vulnerable to constant threats from the Hamad family and other rivals. The blow made it clear Even his achievements in the boxing world weren't enough to protect him from the violence and danger still lurking around every corner. Sam's expulsion from the Mongols marked a critical shift, unraveling his connections to the criminal underworld and making him a prime target. With his status as a target skyrocketing, the violence surrounding him only intensified. Through Operation Ironside, a major police effort aimed at dismantling organized crime networks in Australia, authorities uncovered chilling assassination plans against Sam, exposing just how deep the danger ran. The first attempt on Sam's life took place on June 25, 2022, right after his cousin's funeral. As he drove in a procession of cars outside Faulkner's cemetery, gunmen ambushed him, unleashing a hail of bullets and hitting him 8 times. The brazen daylight attack stunned the community, showcasing the boldness of those out to kill him. Incredibly, Sam survived, despite severe injuries to his chest, abdomen, and leg. Following the shooting, police identified 2 18-year-olds as suspects, along with a 19-year-old believed to have helped plan the hit, all linked to Al Hamza's crew. Meanwhile, Al Hamza himself escaped arrest, reportedly fleeing to the Middle East amid accusations of running a major drug trafficking operation. With the threat closing in, Sam took drastic steps to escape the dangers of Melbourne's underworld. In late 2022, he traveled to Thailand for a high-profile boxing match in Bangkok, using the opportunity to present himself as a reformed man trying to break free from his violent past. During his time in Thailand, he also formed an alliance with members of Brothers for Life, a notorious crime syndicate out of Sydney, seeking connections that might offer him some protection and stability as he tried to rebuild his life on an international stage. Forming an alliance with Brothers for Life was a practical choice for Sam. With enemies actively plotting to kill him, he knew that teaming up with a well-established crime syndicate could give him some much-needed protection against the constant threats from the Al Hamza and Hamid crews. By the time Sam joined Brothers for Life, other major crime families had seen setbacks. Many El Nasha family members were jailed, and the Hadara family lost its grip on the lucrative illicit cigarette trade due to relentless attacks from the Hamad gang. This shift gave Sam a chance to seek support from Brothers for Life, who, despite facing their own challenges, still held significant influence in Sydney's criminal scene. But even abroad, Sam couldn't escape his past. His enemies turned their focus toward his family, targeting their homes and businesses in a bid to force him out of hiding. His nephew's fight venue, where he boxed under the name Punisher Jr., was firebombed just days before the event. Shortly after, a business connected to a close associate of Sam's was set ablaze. The attacks kept coming. More arson incidents struck a beauty salon tied to one of his relatives in his former home in Thomastown. By May 2024, the vendetta intensified. 2 cars belonging to Sam's parents were torched outside their home in a clear, ominous message. Not long after, a hit squad of masked gunmen lay in wait outside his parents' house, hoping to catch Sam as he rushed over to help. As Sam drove out, they opened fire, unleashing 17 rounds in his direction, though he managed to escape unscathed. Another team lying in wait near a relative's house also failed to land their mark. Today, Sam, the Punisher Abdulrahim, remains an elusive figure, living in constant danger. His once vibrant social media presence has faded, with only occasional low-key updates hinting at his survival. Gone are the boastful posts, replaced by a far more cautious approach as he tries to stay under the radar of both law enforcement and his relentless enemies. Rumors swirl about Sam's whereabouts. Some believe he's left Melbourne altogether, possibly laying low elsewhere in Australia or even overseas. While some think he's simply waiting for the heat to die down, others suspect he may be strategizing, building new alliances with powerful players in the criminal world as he fights to stay one step ahead. Seeking protection in exchange for his loyalty and services, Sam Abdulrahim's life has become a risky balancing act, constantly hanging by a thread. The $1 million bounty on his head is a harsh reminder of the enemies he's made, particularly the Hamad and Al Hamza families, who are hell-bent on revenge. This unyielding pursuit of vengeance has fueled a cycle of violence that spiraled beyond control. From his troubled teenage years to his rise as a feared underworld figure, Sam's life story is one of relentless ambition for power and respect, marred by violence, betrayal, and survival. Every chapter in his life has painted a vivid picture of a man trapped by his own decisions, navigating Melbourne's criminal underbelly where betrayal is constant and survival is a daily battle. Despite multiple assassination attempts, endless legal battles, and ongoing feuds with some of Melbourne's most powerful crime figures, Sam has managed to stay alive, showcasing his sharp instincts and iron will. But the big question lingers: how long can he keep dodging death? Sam's story captures the brutal reality of Melbourne's underworld, a world where alliances are shaky. Survival is a game of wits, and power shifts as quickly as the tide. His choices have left a permanent mark on this underground scene, where each close call and narrow escape reminds everyone of the unforgiving world he inhabits. In this world, power is only ever borrowed, and enemies, once made, are often enemies for life.